presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
2 long drives cost the Indians last night. One went just foul for David Murphy that would have won the game in the 10th. And one that went deep into the right field seats from Jacoby Ellsbury and put the Yankees in the win column after 14 innings. Tonight, we bid adieu to the captain, Derek Jeter, in his final game in Cleveland. Indians and Yankees next on Sports Time Ohio. Welcome to All-Star Week here on Sports Time Ohio. Tonight, the Indians continue their series with the New York Yankees live from Progressive Field. Hi again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. New York won last night to take a 2-1 lead in the series. The finale coming up here tonight, and it will be our final time in Cleveland, at least, to take a look at Derek Jeter and what a career he's had. Not much left to say about Jeter that hasn't already been said, except for this, Rick. In Boston, where the Yankees are more hated than maybe the Steelers here in Cleveland, Bob Ryan of the Boston Globe said, if I had my choice of any player in the last 30 years, I'll take Derek Jeter. In fact, he said, if you give me 9 Derek Jeters, you can have the field.
Yeah, well, why not? He's respected the game, I think, more than any other player. Second all-time behind Omar Vizquel, our own Omar Vizquel, as far as games played. And when you look at the postseason, 200 hits in postseason play, that's a whole year, and a very good year at that. But that's what Derek Jeter is all about. Last night he got his 999th multi-hit game. If he gets 2 hits tonight, it'll be 1,000. That's amazing.
No doubt about it. The Indians and the Yankees, the series finale coming up next here on Sports Time Ohio, as Derek Jeter and New York try to take 3 out of 4 from the Tribe. Meanwhile, the Indians, they're hoping for a split. They've got TJ House on the hill. We've got the play-by-play coming up next. Is brought to you by McDonald's. I'm loving it. by your local Toyota dealers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. By Panini's, get overstuffed at Panini's Bar and Grill. And by Jeep. Visit Jeep.com to learn more. Well, from downtown Cleveland, Progressive Field, we welcome you into the finale of this 4-game series. TJ House warming it up for the Tribe. Let's take a look at the starting lineup he will face for Joe Girardi's New York Yankees here this evening, brought to you by Toyota. Brett Gardner back in the leadoff spot. Derek Jeter has played in all 4 games, batting second. Jacoby Ellsbury hits third. Mark Teixeira, Brian McCann, and Francisco Cervelli in the middle. Then it's Zealous Wheeler, Yangervis Solarte batting 8th, and Brendan Ryan will hit 9th.
GMC starting pitcher is TJ House, making his 8th major league start, and he earned his first major league win in his last start against the Kansas City Royals. He went 6 2/3, 9 hits, 3 runs. He didn't walk anybody. He had 3 strikeouts, and that's a game the Indians won 7-3. He'll be making his 3rd start at home this year, where he is 1-0. Let's check that defense behind House tonight. It's Dickerson in left, Brantley in center, Murphy in right, Chisenhall at third, Cabrera at short, Kipnis at second, Santana at first. Perez gets the start behind the plate tonight. That defense is brought to you by Kia.
Field and Colbert, the crew chief, is down at first base tonight. Brian Knight will call the balls and strikes. Manny Gonzalez at second. Tom Woodring is at third, and we are ready to go. Brett Gardner out of the lineup last night with a lower abdominal strain, but he said he figured it would only keep him out of the lineup a day, and he was true to his word. And now TJ House delivers low, and we're underway. 72 degrees, our game time temperature. Not a cloud in sight. Wind has calmed down from earlier this afternoon when first arriving here at the ballpark. There's a pretty stiff breeze blowing straight in, but at game time tonight, just about perfect. 2-0 pitch, chopped to first. Easy play for Santana. 1 away.
Santana looked like a receiver trying to keep both feet in bounds over there on the line.
Derek Jeter's final appearance here in Cleveland, and this is his final game at Progressive Field, the place where he launched his first Major League home run on opening day in 1996, and thus launched a Hall of Fame career. He appeared in a handful of games in 1995, but it was 96 when he got his first full season, led New York to the World Championship, Rookie of the Year, and he has not let up.
Right, he hasn't.
Good pitch, but did not get the call, and it's 1-2.
.352 hitter in this ballpark, .335 against the Indians in his career.
Slowly chopped by the mound. House quickly gets to the bag to cover, and then the throw by Santana, and just the way the play was going, momentum and everything, it was ugly. It could have been a lot uglier, but Jeter tried to avoid plowing over TJ House.
Well, he had to get to the base, and House was right in the middle of the base line, and it's just a weird play. House should have went right to first base. He couldn't get it, and then the shuffle pass from Santana, and you know, it just yeah, you're right. It was a botched play right from the beginning. If he would have went directly to first base and let Santana take it, it may have been a little bit different, but That'll go as a base hit for Jeter. One of those tweener plays. You know, you're going over to the mound. He thought he might have had a chance at it. He couldn't catch it by that time and then had to redirect himself to first base.
Already with a full head of steam, making it a little difficult.
Hard to do. You know, normally when pitchers try and cover the baseline, they cut their path where they, you know, veer.
Kind of flatten out by the line so they can get a
direct path where they're running, you know, parallel with the line right to first base and take the throw and step on the bag.
Which is exactly what Cody Allen did last night, but his foot slid off the bag. Close play late in the ball game that upon review was overturned. It's one thing if you have the time to get there and look down and find it. But a lot of times that throw is coming from second base. By the time you get there, you've got to find it with your foot to feel it rather than take your eye off the throw and risk getting hit right in the face.
Well, and the way Santana flipped it, it was almost like he flipped it out of his glove as a changeup. You know, that didn't have any steam on it.
1-2 the count on Ellsbury. 4 for 16 in the series, and a big home run last night on the 14th inning that gave New York the win. To left field, right in the tracks of Chris Dickerson. 2 down. Keys to the game are brought to you by Wayside Furniture. Now TJ House hopefully can give the Indians some length tonight. Ease the burden on an overtaxed bullpen. Take advantage with runners in scoring position would be important as well. First game of the series, the Indians fell behind early and had to go into the bullpen early.
Yeah, they needed 7 innings out of that bullpen from game 1.
Yesterday, they had the early lead, couldn't hold it, and ended up playing 14 innings. In between, a terrific come-from-behind win for the Indians. So this series has featured a little bit of everything.
You remember his first start in Baltimore for House. The bullpen was fried that day, and he had to give you some innings. He gave him 6 innings.
Base hit right center field. Murphy trying to cut it off. But Jeter will go all the way to third before he can do that. And so now Yankees at the corners with 2 down as Teixeira picks up his 4th hit in the series.
Well, a good swing from the right side of the plate by Teixeira to stay on the baseball and take it the other way. That ball was elevated. It made it a little easier for him to go that way. And he just stayed right on it. Takes a single. Keeps the inning going. 1st and 3rd now with 2 outs, and we'll flip it over to McCann.
Brian McCann, 5 hits in 14 at-bats in the series. Good breaking ball. Last night, McCann was 1 for 5 with a sac fly. Roberto Perez behind the plate tonight, making his Indians debut. Perez was called up after the Indians designated George Coteras for assignment, needing a backup catcher. So Perez getting an opportunity to make his major league debut here this evening. And the good news is he's caught TJ House a lot in the minor leagues. So they have a pretty good working relationship. He knows what he likes to throw, knows what he likes to throw in tough situations.
Should make it easier for the two to get on the same page then.
And the last couple of days since Perez has been here, he's gone out to the bullpen to work with all of the relief pitchers, trying to catch each one of them to get an idea of what their stuff does.
He won't be doing a lot of catching, but you're right. He's got to know every pitcher on the staff.
In for a strike. It's 2-2. Indians really like the way Perez receives the ball defensively. Very good. 2-2 pitch. Way outside. And now a full count. I think like a lot of young catchers, offense may be the last thing to come around. There are some guys who are great offensive players that get moved to catcher, and then they have to learn the catching position on the fly, kind of like Carlos Santana did. But for Perez, who's a pure catcher, offense might be the last thing to come around, and hopefully it does. Runner at first takes off on a 3-2 pitch, and a little low. Ball 4, the bases are loaded.
Patient at bat there by McCann to lay off a pitch. Take the walk, move it along.
20-pitch first inning to this point now for T.J. House. Still a chance to get out of it if he can retire Francisco Cervelli, who's making just his second appearance in the series. Cervelli 0 for 3 in action to this point. Cervelli certainly no slouch when it comes to swinging the bat. A week ago in Minnesota, he had a 3-hit game.
Well, he's one guy that gets right on the plate, and he doesn't move a whole lot on pitches on the inside. He got drilled in game 1 of this series on a 2-2 count, right on the knee.
Took something off. Cervelli swung over the top. It's 0-2. Same pitch, struck him out with it. T.J. House gets his first K, gets out of a jam, and the Yankees leave him loaded. The Indians are coming to bat when we come back. Bottom of the first, let's look at Terry Francona's starting lineup. It's brought to you by Progressive. Jason Kipnis in the leadoff spot, followed by Asdrubal Cabrera. Michael Brantley batting third, Carlos Santana cleanup. Lonnie Chisenhall now officially qualifying tied with Brantley in the American League batting race. Then it's David Murphy, Nick Swisher, Chris Dickerson, and Roberto Perez making his major league debut.
GMC starting pitcher is David Phelps. Phelps is making his 13th start this year and his 22nd appearance. In his career, in his 35 starts, he's 10-10 with a 4.26 ERA. In his last 5 starts, he's pitched very well. He's 2-0 and an ERA of 3.16. Let's set the defense for him. Behind him, it looks like this. Gardner's in left. Ellsbury is in center. Wheeler in right. Solarte at third. Jeter at short. Ryan at second. Teixeira at first. Cervelli behind the plate. That is our Kia defense.
And away we go as Jason Kipnis steps in. Kipnis 4 for 15 in the series. And David Phelps gets ahead with a fastball for strike one.
Phelps has made 2 career starts against the Tribe, where he is 1-1 with a .71 ERA.
Breaking ball down in the dirt. A ball and 2 strikes.
Phelps is very tough against left-handed hitters as well. Lefty's hitting just .211 off him this year.
Fastball off the plate. Kipnis able to watch it sail wide. Tell you what, Rick, last time Phelps pitched against Minnesota, when he got to 2 strikes, Minnesota batters went 1 for 13 in that game.
The put-away pitch.
After getting 2 quick strikes on Kipnis, Jason's been able to work the count full. Now Phelps ready with a payoff pitch. And it's ball 4. So Kipnis, after falling behind 0-2, has a leadoff walk. And up comes Asdrubal Cabrera. You know, Phelps is one of those guys, as a right-hander, he's able to neutralize the lefties. Minnesota's left-handed hitters in that game, 1 for 14 against him. And on the year, the left-handed hitters are just a little over the Mendoza line at 211.
Not many guys in the league are better than he is against lefties. And when you look at the right-handers, we're talking about Anibal Sanchez, Garrett Richards with the Angels, Colin McHugh with Houston. We don't know him. We haven't really seen him. He's 206, but Felix Hernandez is 206, and this guy's right behind him. Chris Archer's in there as well. So right-handers at very good change-ups or off-speed pitches. You have to have it if you can neutralize the left-handers like that in this league.
Well, just like Kipnis, he's ahead with 2 quick strikes to Cabrera.
Well, he was looking in like he had a strike.
Francisco Cervelli held that ball a long time.
Yeah, and did you see Phelps looking in, thinking, all right, that's a strike? Wow, that ball came back. It was a strike. Cabrera caught a break.
Cervelli's like stuck in like a frozen statue.
That's right. It's like the picture froze. That ball came back over the plate. That was a good pitch. So Cabrera, he's lucky. He got a break.
Him holding the ball like that was is like somebody saying, "Excuse me?"
Yeah, I didn't hear you.
Huh? How's that? Come again? And the 1-2. Not this time, though.
No, you've got to get one of those two pitches.
So Cabrera's out looking. 1 away.
Let's take a look at this one. It looked like a little slider or a cutter on the outside part of the plate on our Nissan pitch tracker. That's a good pitch, right on the outside edge. He didn't get that fastball that came back on the inside, but if he did not call that, you have to call that.
I can understand, from Asdrubal Cabrera's perspective, I can understand if that ball's down at the knees, that pitch, you got to get after that. It's 2 strikes. It's up. Yeah, I know it's on the outside part of the plate.
A pitch that was a strike, too.
I mean, we saw Teixeira do it in his at-bat. Pitch is up, it's away, but just you take it the other way. If it's up, you got a chance to put a good swing on it there.
Well, unless the inside pitch froze him and he was looking back in there again.
Right.
You know, and he wasn't looking away, and then he couldn't pull the trigger. That'll happen sometimes where a hitter will guess wrong.
He's not going to go out there again, right?
Right.
Oh,
well,
guess
yeah,
what?
He's not coming in here again. Yeah, well, he did.
Jason Kipnis with 11 steals now on the year. He leads the team, and he's only been caught 1 time. Low and away. 2-0 for Brantley. Michael in the series, 6 out of 13, 2 doubles and a home run.
Well, if I'm Kipnis now, I let Brantley go ahead and swing. He's got a 2-0 count. I know Michael takes a lot of pitches unless you absolutely can get a great jump. Give him that hole between first and second. Let him see some pitches from the pitcher, especially that first time around. They don't have a real book on this guy, I wouldn't think. You don't see him that often. As I mentioned, only his 3rd start.
Brantley with a base hit in the left field. Michael has now hit in 7 straight games. And during his hitting streak, Rick, he's batting .500, 14 for 28.
Well, he's having a good series. He got a base hit in his first at-bat last night. I thought he was going to continue to do that and have another multi-hit game, but he didn't. But he starts off tonight with a knock the other way, stayed on it.
Now a chance for Carlos Santana. In there for a strike. Fouled right back.
Wow. Knocked the mask right off of the helmet of Cervelli.
He didn't look too happy about it either.
No, watch, right, direct hit, and it knocked it sideways. Falls straight down to the ground.
He's like, I don't need this in the first inning.
Well, and then that is a direct hit. And speaking of that, Carlos Beltran went on the concussion list today. Remember, he was in the starting lineup yesterday. Fouled the ball off that cage, came down, hit him, broke his nose. Has a concussion as well, so he was put on the disabled list.
How's that for bad luck?
Yeah, after coming back, he was just getting back into the lineup.
Oh, Santana is rung up here in the first inning. So the 2 outs the Indians have made have failed to put a ball in play. Both called third strikes.
Thirds. There's that comeback. Now you see the umpire got a look at that one the first time with Cabrera. So he comes back with one to Santana, and he stayed on that one, and they get the call. That's going to be a pretty tough pitch for Phelps tonight against the left-handers, and they have a boatload of them in the lineup.
Well, here's Lonnie Chisenhall now, tied with Michael Brantley in the American League batting race, tied for the 4th best average. And Chisenhall taking ball one, it's inside. Lonnie in the series is gone just 1 for 12. But if you take a look at where these two guys are at, first pair of Indians teammates since 0-1 to be in the top 5 this late in the season. That year, Robbie Alomar and Juan Gonzalez were in it right to the bitter end. Lifted in the air to left field. Calling for it is Gardner. And the inning is over. No runs a hit, 2 men left. We are scoreless after 1. Your Northern Ohio Honda dealers. By the Cleveland Clinic. Call today for an appointment today. And by the Northeast Ohio Ford dealers. No score, second inning. For New York, Zealous Wheeler leading it off.
Well, and there's TJ again, getting that ball, getting right back on the rubber and getting after it. Trying to get that rhythm, trying to find it. Threw a lot of pitches for him in that first inning.
In the air, center field. Michael Brantley is there. Let's go downstairs to Katie Witham. She's got more on Roberto Perez making his Major League debut here tonight.
Well, Matt, what really sets Roberto Perez apart from other catchers that you've seen is the way in which he receives the ball. And you mentioned that. You may think catching is pretty easy, but up here, a lot more goes into it at the Major League level. Everyone's commented on his hands, how soft they are. When you watch him, it's one fluid motion. And it's not just the way in which he receives it, but also the framing he's able to put on the ball. So typically, pitches that may or should be balls end up being strikes because he receives it deep and he frames it in the zone every time.
That's something that pitchers have to absolutely love too, because anytime you can get a borderline pitch called a strike, then you're going to help your guy out a lot during the course of a game.
No question about it.
Perez is 25 years old. a native of Puerto Rico. Checked his swing, and again, it's a similar play to the one Jeter had. This time, House just stays out of the way and lets Kipnis take care of business. 2 down.
Well, can you beat the best? Join millions of players now on the only official Home Run Derby mobile game from MLB.com. Square off against your friends from around the world, live in multiplayer derby mode, and climb to the top of the leaderboards. Download today for free on the Apple App Store and Google Play.
Brendan Ryan. He might have had a sleepless night last night. Struck out 4 times in 5 at-bats. Grounds out here, and the Yankees go 1-2-3. David Murphy, Nick Swisher, and Chris Dickerson due up for the Indians. Well, how about the Boston Red Sox? They beat the White Sox today 4-3 in 10 innings, despite the fact that Chicago out-hit them 10-3.
Wow.
But they got a big hit in the 10th inning to win it from Mike Karp.
3 hits and they get the win, huh?
Yeah, and they had the 3-1 lead in the 9th, but Koji Uehara gave up a 2-run homer to Connor Gillespie to send it to extra innings, and then Boston wins it in the 10th.
So back-to-back wins where they were able to come back on the White Sox, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And the White Sox were playing good before those 2 games.
Koji Uehara, by the way, I don't know if this was official, but I had heard someone say that he will replace Tanaka for the American League All-Stars.
Okay.
So, yeah, that is official. Murphy back to the mound, knocked down by the pitcher, and Phelps throws him out, 1 away. Great clip of the game from yesterday. Nick Swisher in the first inning had a 2-out, 2-run single that helped stake the Indians to a 3-0 lead. Unfortunately, they couldn't hold it. They did come back and tie it after New York went ahead later in the game, but couldn't push ahead that ultimate go-ahead winning run. We saw it earlier. David Murphy was also close last night in the 10th. Nick Swisher had an opportunity with the bases loaded in the 10th inning and 1 out, but
well, it's tough
couldn't get it done.
When you score 3 in the very first inning and you can only get 1 the rest of the way in the other 13, that's a tough way to win, and that's what happened. There was great bullpen work on both sides.
Phelps delivers.
You look at that Indians bullpen in this series, 16 innings, just 10 hits, and 1 earned run, and that one cost them the game. 3 walks, 18 strikeouts.
To left field. Back goes Gardner. Reaches up and makes the catch. 2 down. Nick Swisher was a teammate of Derek Jeter's for 4 years in New York.
All you got to do is say the number 2, and everybody on the planet knows who you're talking about, a.k.a. the captain. You know, I mean, again, Mr. November, I guess. I mean, there's nothing this cat hasn't done, man. I mean, he's dominated in the regular season. He's dominated in the postseason. I mean, he's done everything right. I mean, so for him to be taken off on his own terms, I could not be more happy, man. A great friend, a great leader. I've learned so much from him. And for us, man, tonight's kind of a night to acknowledge him.
Well, he has respected the game of baseball in one uniform for 20 years, one position for 20 years.
Ooh, that ball was smoked right up the middle. So Chris Dickerson with a 2-out single here in the second inning. And that's already 5 hits in 12 at-bats for Dickerson since he was traded from the Pirates here just the other day.
Well, he was 2 for 2 against Phelps coming into this ball game. So he's 3 for 3 against him in his career. He must have faced him when he was with Baltimore.
Roberto Perez getting his first big league at bat here. And a ground ball towards second base. Brendan Ryan scooping it up to throw him out and ends the inning. 2 complete, no score here in Cleveland. Here tonight. Top of the order due up for New York. Brett Gardner to lead it off as TJ House goes back to work. Gave up a couple of hits in the first inning, walked a batter, but got out of the bases loaded with 2 outs. Retired the side in order in the second inning.
Yeah, so 2 for 8 the first time through this lineup. Let's see if he settles down the second time through. He had a nice quick inning in the second. 1, 2, 3.
Gardner bounced to first his first time up, takes a strike over the outside corner. Down in the dirt. And Gardner lays off 1-1 to count. Breaking ball and a good one. In there for a strike. 1-2 to count.
Yes.
Almost chased after,
yes,
did he? Yes, he did. And that is out number 1, second strikeout for T.J. House. Let's go downstairs to Katie with him with our Here Right Audiology sounds of the game.
Well, Matt, Derek Jeter might be the one most disappointed that this is his last game at Progressive Field. Coming into tonight, the second highest batting average of an opposing player at .352, and his explanation why was a simple one.
I like playing here. It's fun. I don't know. I like this stadium. You know, I've always liked coming here to play. You know, we've had some great battles with some really good Cleveland teams. You know, when they beat us in '97, we came back and beat them in '98. But yeah, it's I don't know. I enjoy coming here. It's a nice stadium. The fans have always been great, and I'll leave it at that.
That's about all you'll ever get from Jeter. He's not going to get real deep or philosophical on you or overthink it. He's just going to tell you, hey, have fun here.
It's a good park. I get a lot of hits. I like it. He sees the ball well, obviously. But, you know, in his career, he's seen the ball well in every ballpark.
Back in 1995, I mentioned that Jeter had spent a handful of games in the big leagues that year with the Yankees, but it was just a small number of games. And he traveled with the team during the postseason. And in that division series, that epic division series they had in Seattle, in the final game, David Cone was on the hill for New York. And Cone, as he always did throughout his career, there's David on your left, announcer down with the New York Yankees. He gave everything he had. That night he threw 147 pitches.
Oh boy.
And when he walked off the mound, he was so exhausted. He told Tom Verducci of Sports Illustrated he couldn't comb his hair for a week. Couldn't get his right arm up above.
And he's not a big
hair.
guy. He's, you know, you figure a starting pitcher of his caliber, he's not a big guy.
But when he got to the dugout, the first guy to get off the bench and pat him on the back and pick him up was 21-year-old Derek Jeter.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, you knew right then this kid had something special, something different. He just had that thing you can't define, that intangible quality that has made him a special player.
Yeah.
And he's out looking here. Wow. And T.J. House is starting to deal. Back-to-back strikeouts to start the third inning.
Came inside on him. I think Jeter must have been looking away. House comes right back in, and look at the target. Perez sits right there. A perfect pitch. Jeter knew it. And House now has struck out 2 in a row. House with 6-0-2, 1-2 counts out of his first 11.
Right back to him.
Caroms
towards Cabrera. Barehand pickup throw, not in time. Had to pull him off the bag, and with the speed of Ellsbury, it would have had to have been absolutely perfect to get him.
Well, that ball coming back at House, I think it scared him because he thought it was coming back much harder than what it really did. He hit more like a changeup, but as a pitcher, you think everything's coming hard. Cabrera had to barehand it and make a perfect throw. I don't know if he would have got him even if he makes a perfect throw. the way Ellsbury can get down the line. Had to throw off balance, and you can see why it wasn't on target the way you had to throw it. An infield hit for Ellsbury.
Keeps the inning alive, though, for Mark Teixeira, who, as we saw last night, you make mistakes, he can hurt you. He had 2 home runs last night.
Well, he had a curveball and a fastball off Josh Tomlin. The first one was a curveball down. The other was a fastball down and in.
Though of his 17 home runs this year, only 2 have come from the right side of the plate. Three 3-0 with Brian McCann on deck. Keeping an eye on Ellsbury.
On a 3-0 count, mind you.
There's 24 stolen bases on the year.
Sometimes guys will take off on pitchers. Base stealers will on 3-0 counts, figuring they're not going to pay attention to them. So I really don't mind the throws over there by T.J. House with a guy like Ellsbury, because they'll just take off thinking, okay, he's not going to pay attention to me. He's got to worry about throwing a strike. But he threw over there twice and then comes in and throws a strike.
Oh, nice change of pace. Teixeira didn't expect that. Full count. He's sitting dead red for the fastball, but
well, you pull the string. That's the type of pitcher House is. He can't rear back and throw the ball by, especially in hitters' count, so you got to do something tricky.
Runner goes. 3-2 pitch hit on the ground towards third. Chisenhall scoops it up, throws it over, and the side is retired. We'll head to the bottom of the third. No score. Just a reminder, as you enjoy a cold one tonight, to stay tuned later in the game for Miller Time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Bottom of the third, top of the order for the Tribe. Jason Kipnis, Asdrubal Cabrera, and Michael Brantley coming up. David Phelps has given up a pair of singles. He's walked one, struck out two in the first 2 innings here tonight.
Well, the first time through the lineup, the Indians have 2 hits and 8 at bats, but he threw 5 first pitch strikes and no Indians swung at the first pitch. We'll see the second time through how it goes. Changeup.
Down low with it. 1 ball and 1 strike. And a line drive base hit in the left field for Kipnis. His 5th hit in the series. And the Indians had their leadoff man aboard for the second time tonight.
Well, I like the approach. Brantley went the other way. Here's Kipnis on a ball away going the other way. Dickerson with the hit up the middle. Trying to stay on the baseball. Don't try and pull him and help him out. He's awfully good against left-handers, so I like it. And you can see on Kipnis this year, hits by direction. 16 to left, 24 to center, 24 to right. And he's really good. When he had that month last year, Matt, where he just stayed on the ball, he peppered left field.
Yeah.
And he drove a lot of balls to left field.
Kipnis takes off, got a tremendous jump. Really no chance to throw him out. And Jason has his 12th stolen base of the year, leads the club in that category.
Well, that tells me the first time he was on first base in the first inning after that walk, he had a pretty good read and what to look for. So he was ready, and he goes on the first pitch, and it's awfully good when a base stealer can go early in the count and let that hitter do whatever he wants to do after that.
Cabrera pulls it on the ground, foul.
And that's what you're looking for. See if you can hit that ball to the right side. For Phelps, he is starting on 4 days rest, where he has not pitched as well as he has when he's on 5 days rest. He's 0-3 with a 5.58 on 4 days rest. 5 or more, he's 3-1.
Now, a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that he's worked a lot out of the bullpen this year.
Started out, yes, he did. Making his 13th start. He's made 9 appearances out of the bullpen for the Yankees. And after looking at that Yankee bullpen last night, they've got some pretty good arms coming out of there, I'll tell you.
This guy's been pretty steady Eddie, though. I mean, it's 5 innings at least every time out as a starter. Two pitch to Cabrera. Almost chased after it, but held up. Full count. Cabrera this year has hit 34 points higher at home than on the road. And trying to parlay that into a base hit right here. Maybe give the Indians the early lead. Outside, ball 4. Tribe has their first 2 on now here in the third. And that's going to bring up Michael Brantley. But first, it's time for a Mazda game break. Here's Al Pulaski.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Rick. Today in Boston, the White Sox and Red Sox went to the bottom of the 10th inning. And here Mike Karp, a single to left. Daniel Nava coming around third. He slides in home safely. He scores the game-winning run. Red Sox over the White Sox today in 10. Matt?
Thanks, Al. Here's Michael Brantley now coming up with the base hit his first time up. Brantley with his 7th hit in the series his first time up. High fly ball,
Just
right
missed it.
field. Wheeler settling under it, tagging his Kipnis. He's headed for third, and he'll get in there safely. And now there's one out. Cabrera had to hold at first. So Brantley at least got Kipnis over to third base. And up comes Carlos Santana, who was called out on strikes his first time up. But consider this. Santana this year, for all of the problems he's had offensively, he has averaged a home run every 4 hits at home this season.
Well,
Fouled right back. On the road, it's not too shabby either. He averages a home run every 5 hits on the road.
Well, he's a guy, he's been in that number 4 hole. You want to see him production. Home runs come from good at-bats. When you're up there trying to hit him, we talk about it all the time. Right now, there's less than 2 outs. You want to see that runner in from third base no matter how you have to do it. Get him home. It doesn't have to be a home run. Productive outs is what you need. Home runs come from good at-bats.
Strike called.
See, now you have to change your whole thought process. Now you're down in the count 0-2. Phelps has got a few pitches to work with here. He was able to get Santana on that pitch inside the last time. We'll see how he tries to go about getting him out this time.
Strikes him out again, 2 away.
That's where you want the ball in play. Then you come up empty. He went fastball in, and then the big slow hook. And he gets him to swing over the top of it. He couldn't wait back.
So, once again, it leaves it up to Lonnie Chisenhall, who flied to left his first time up. Low and away, ball 1. Lonnie Chisenhall had a 5-hit game back in May against Toronto. He was 5 for 6. And then that epic game in June at Texas, when he had 5 hits, including 3 homers and 9 ribbies.
Now that's the day you remember for the rest of your life.
Two-0 pitch upstairs, 3-0. I don't think anyone expected Lonnie to hit 360 all year long. But he has had a bit of a cool spell here lately. Taking all the way, it's 3-1.
Well, as hot as he was, Matt, earlier in the year, there's only one way you can go, is down. You certainly can't go any higher. You can level off a little bit and stay consistent, and he's been good. This has been a great year for him. And let's hope he can finish it out the whole year the way he started. Like a chip on his shoulder, like something to prove.
Yeah. Got a chance here, 3-1 pitch. And he smashes one to center field. Ellsbury on the move, runs it down. So good speed in center keeps the Indians from getting on the board here in the third. Using the hashtag STOFanPhoto for a chance to have them shown during one of our telecasts. It's all courtesy of AT&T. Brian McCann, the leadoff, the fourth for New York. Ripped fair,
wow.
No foul. It's
boy,
called foul.
Boy.
And that was just a terrific diving stop by Santana. It's a shame it was called foul.
I thought it was fair. I thought it might have went over the bag fair. That was a heck of a stab. Get a look at it. Yeah, just foul. But he's guarding that line, isn't he, with McCann up.
Out of play. Swung on and missed. He got him to go fish. Fourth strikeout for House. One down here in inning number 4. Right now on FoxSportsOhio.com, chat tribe with Joe Reedy. See how a local charity tried to lure LeBron James back to town, and even more on all of the NBA free agency picture. It's all on FoxSportsOhio.com. Now Francisco Cervelli struck out his first time up. And a ground ball over the glove of Kipnis. Got a piece of it. And Karam's into right field. Cervelli aboard with a 1-out single. That's what he couldn't do his first time up when the bases were loaded with 2 outs. Couldn't put the ball in play.
If you watch Kipnis over here, it looks like he dives. When he dives, he just goes a little too far. It was in between, you know what I mean? Where he couldn't just reach down and get it. He had to leave his feet, and as he did, he was heading down and went off the top of his glove, the thumb of his glove, and ricocheted.
Now Zealous Wheeler shoots one down the first baseline.
You see the approach here. These guys, the right-handers coming up figuring, I got to stay on TJ House. I'm not going to try to pull him. So if they're going to start making an adjustment, then he's going to have to start pitching inside. Now the boy.
1 ball, 1 strike.
The Yankees, that second time through now. You're on hitter number 7. They've swung 5 times first pitch. So they've been getting a little more aggressive off him, knowing that House is going to try and get ahead of you.
Fouled back by Wheeler, and the count 1-2 now. Big Zealous Wheeler, the Alabama native who could have gone to a number of different schools to play college football, but chose baseball. That was his path. Bounced around with a couple of different organizations, but trying to make it now with the Yankees. A little bit outside, 2-2. Joe Girardi's team, a couple of games over 500. And just 3 games out of first when the day began. Wheeler drives one to deep left field and gone. So Big Zealous Wheeler with his second home run of the year. A 2-run shot right down the line, and it gives New York a 2-0 lead.
Well, he's a big, strong man. Let's check out the pitch and the location. He left that one at a little too much of the plate. He didn't get it in there. And he put a good swing on it. It was just a matter if it stays fair, and it got out in a hurry, and it stayed fair all right. So the Yankees will take a 2-0 lead.
Chop to third. Nope, Chisenhall can't get it. Solarte, big turn, but he'll hold at first base. Probably an error. We'll see how it's scored.
Well, he let the ball play him. Matt, he sort of, that's an in-between hop, but he sort of laid back on it. It's almost like you have to try and be aggressive and get it on that short hop on the backhanded side. It'll be an error for Chisenhall. That's an in-between hop there on him. But if you lay back, it's going to be really tough play.
Brendan Ryan ground out his first time up. Line to second, caught by Kipnis. But Solarte wasn't far enough off the bag for a double play. 2 down.
Well, it's just a line drive. Kipnis has to jump, had it timed right. As a base runner, that's what you want to do is stop. It's our Wendy slow motion replay.
Top of the order, Brett Gardner 0 for 2 on the night. Pitches outside, 1-0. Up the middle, diving forward is Kipnis off his glove. All the way to third goes Solarte. Third hit of the inning for New York.
And for Gardner, he is now 24 straight games. He has reached base safely. And he's been in that leadoff spot, so he's been doing a good job at least getting on the base. He does again with 2 outs. Another ball that just deflects off the glove of Jason Kipnis, keeps the inning going.
And once again, up comes Derek Jeter. Tried to hold up, but he went around. The 0-1 pitch is in off the plate, and that'll even up the count. Stat of the game brought to you by Buick. 3,000 hits, 250 or more homers, 1,200 ribbies, 300 steals. Only Jeter and Mays in that club. Okay. Willie Mays. I mean, you put his numbers up against anybody, and you just say, wow.
Yeah. Hank Aaron's too.
And they were putting up the numbers before anybody realized just how crazy good those numbers were.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Well, you look at some of those guys back then, and it is amazing. You shake your head. You take away all of Hank's 700-plus home runs, he's still got 3,000 hits. That's goofy, isn't it?
Pitch outside, 3-1. When Paul Quantrill was pitching for the Yankees toward the end of his career, he walked up to Joe Torre one day and he said, you know, I always knew Jeter was a good player, but now that I've played with him, I didn't realize how good he really is. Speaking to all the little things that he does and
attention to detail
so well over his career. Yeah,
well, and that's where you really, even no matter what team you play in, until you play with a guy every day, you don't really appreciate the guy's utmost. And there's a lot of guys like that. I mean, Derek Jeter's in a class of his own, but there's a lot of players in this game that you don't realize how good they are because you don't have the opportunity to watch them play every day.
How they deal with the ups and downs, the emotions.
You know, you go through it, you may see a guy 6 times a year, and he can have an off year.
TJ House having a tough time getting through this inning. The bases are loaded now with 2 down, and Jacoby Ellsbury is going to be the 8th man to bat of the inning. Here's Sandy Alomar Jr. on Derek Jeter.
Well, he's what you call the marquee player of professionalism. He's a constant professional. If he does everything perfect. You don't see him engaging in a lot of conversation. He's here to play baseball. It's like a businessman on the field, and he's here to to beat you. I mean, he'll talk to players, but he engages in short conversations. So he's like basically aware of every single situation in the game. He's on top. He's here to beat you.
He's not here to be your friend.
No, he's here to beat you, as Sandy said.
Yeah, and you know what? And he's all about winning. You said you interviewed him, about 10 years ago or so? Was it early 2000s?
Yeah, and it was after he'd already won 4 world championships, and, and he already had a boatload of accolades. And I asked him, I said, what continues to drive you and motivate you when you've accomplished so much already in your career? And he said, winning. Simple.
Yeah.
Just didn't care about the personal accolades and how many times they gave him awards. All he wants to do is win, and
that's the bottom line.
That's what drives him, and that's how you stay consistent.
Well, that's what the game is all about. You're on this. You're between the lines to win. You're not going to win all the time, but you're going to try.
Well, if you love to compete, this is a great sport because you get a chance almost every single day of the season. Think about basketball, football, NBA, and NHL. You're not playing every day.
Well, but in this game, you're playing offensively, defensively, running the bases. There's a lot of ways to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a big out for House in this ball game. He's settled in, and then all of a sudden that 2-run home run, and then the error, and then a hit, and now a walk. So he's at a really critical juncture in this game for him. They've got the bullpen up and throwing, and that's something you wanted to stay away from if you could. Remember, they left the bases loaded back in the first inning.
Manny Pistano is up for the Tribe. 75th pitch now for House. Bounce toward third. Chisenhall has it. He'll set and throw, and the inning is over. So for the second time tonight, the Yankees leave the bases loaded. But before they loaded them up, Zealous Wheeler unloaded, and New York leads it 2-0.
Night, the Indians will take on the Chicago White Sox coming in for a 3-game series over the weekend. So fireworks will start tomorrow night. Rally Alley will be open and partying starts in the afternoon. Come on out to the ballpark.
Now White Sox coming in and take us to the All-Star break. Indians down a couple of runs here, bottom of the fourth. Murphy, Swisher, and Dickerson due up. Got the presidential wave. Is that the Queen?
That's parade wave.
Yeah.
You're looking at her. You're a nut job.
A little bit low to Murphy, ball one. Two balls and a strike. Detroit has jumped on Kansas City for 3 runs in the first inning. Tigers are starting to play pretty good. Three-one pitch. Murphy just kind of reached for it on a 3-1 pitch. 1 away. Injury report brought to you by the attorneys at Elk & Elk. Brandon Phillips needs surgery on a torn ligament in his left thumb.
And then over on the right thumb, how important is that guy to that lineup? Molina.
Not only the lineup, but just defensively what he does behind the plate every night. Tough losses for both those clubs as they try to catch the Milwaukee Brewers.
There's 4 teams in that division over 500. That division started to pick up.
Well, the Brewers finally coming back to the pack a little bit. They lost 4 in a row coming into today. 8 out of 10 overall. Yeah, that division is tightening up.
Yeah. And it looks like it's going to get a little bit tighter.
Swisher with a line drive, base hit into center field. The Indians have had a hit in every inning. And a one-out base runner now here in the 4th. Speaking of tight divisional races, Oakland beat the stuffing out of San Francisco in San Francisco today. So if the Dodgers win against San Diego tonight, they go back in front of the Giants in the NL West by a game.
Well, I don't think anybody wants to play Oakland right about now. They've been on a pretty good roll.
Angels have been hanging in there. They're 3.5 back when the day began. So 4 back at the moment, and I think the Angels were winning at last check.
Yeah, they have 53 wins over in that division, and behind them is Seattle with 49.
Yeah, Angels are up 4-0 on Texas in the first inning. Boy, the poor Texas Rangers.
They can't get out of their own way.
They've lost 4 in a row, 9 out of 10. They've fallen a percentage point behind Houston in the last place in the AL West.
Yeah. Yeah, Houston beat them yesterday, didn't they, to leapfrog them.
Two-two pitch. And Dickerson is swinging a miss. 4th strikeout for Phelps. And 2 down here in the inning. All-Star game comes your way Tuesday from Target Field in Minnesota. Special coverage begins at 4:30 on Fox Sports 1, followed by the All-Star game at 7:30 only on Fox. Roberto Perez, a ground out his first time up in his major league debut here tonight. Fouled back.
Second time Cervelli's taken a hit. Let's see what happened here. Right off the mask.
Second time in the mask.
Santana got him, and now Perez. This time his mask stayed on, not that it helps.
That's the kind of foul ball that makes you wonder if this is really worth it.
Do you ever, wonder what that feels like?
No, I don't want to know.
You don't?
I had enough helmet-to-helmet collisions in football to know that it feels about the same, and those aren't fun.
You get woozy.
When you see white flashes, just missed. You could see Phelps walking off the mound thinking he had.
Look at
Perez struck
he's
out.
talking to himself right now. He's felt that way a couple times tonight with Brian Knight behind the plate.
Way outside, and the count evens up. Perez hit 8 home runs at AAA Columbus this year. He had a good year offensively. He was batting .305 at the time of his call-up. 43 driven in his 53 games. Foul right back, had a good cut there. But nothing to show for it, 2-2.
Yeah, that's where you wanted. That's the pitch. You had a 2-strike pitch to hit.
Slider down in the dirt. Did he go? He did not. And a full count. So with 2 down and a 3-2 count, Nick Swisher will be running at first base as Perez looks for his first major league hit. And the payoff is up high, ball 4. So 2 on, 2 out, and we go back to the top of the order. And Jason Kipnis, who is singled, he has walked, he has stolen a base.
Well, 3 of their 4 runs last night came with 2 out base hits. They could use one right now and respond to that 2-run 4th inning, top half of the 4th by the Yankees.
Indians are 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. As Jason Kipnis tries to change that right here. A little bit low. 1-1 account. And that's out of play. Jason has really picked it up offensively here of late. Now trying to drive in a run. Going into that leadoff spot with Michael Bourne on the DL. High pop. Right center field. And the Indians strand 2 more. They've left 7 through the first 4, and they trail 2-0. Is brought to you by Sunnyside Honda at I-71 and Pearl Road in Middleburg Heights. By Levin Furniture. For the best deals on furniture and mattresses, shop Levin's. And by Kia. Visit mykiacleveland.com to learn more. Beautiful sunset out over Lake Erie here at Progressive Field. New York leading it 2-0. Mark Teixeira leading off the fifth. He's 1 out of 2 on the night. T.J. House delivers, it's fouled away, and interesting in that Vinny Pistano was up at the start of the inning.
Yeah, he was up last inning when House was he was teetering.
Swung out and missed. It's 1-2. Kind of gives you the idea that any sign of trouble, and Terry Francona is going to go to Pistano. Or he may only allow TJ to face a couple of guys, and when they get to those right-handed bats, he might go to Pistano anyway. Big hop for Chisenhall, and Lonnie with a perfect strike. 1 away.
Well, 10,000 fans will get a Kenny Lofton jersey. That's courtesy of Key Bank. That'll take place Saturday night. Middle game of the White Sox series. The Lofton jersey, who wouldn't want to have that? I wonder if Kenny's going to be in town. I bet he's not. He might be busy, huh? Out on the left coast.
You never know. He's got a lot of things going on. See if we can get an answer to your query.
I should ask Nate.
We're going to miss. One-two pitch. Swing and a miss. TJ strikes him out.
Again.
2 down, and that's the 5th strikeout of the night for the Tribe left-hander. He's fanned McCann twice. Francisco Cervelli once, who's coming up now. He's also struck out Gardner and Jeter.
Funky swing right there.
No, there will be no Kenny Lofton.
I didn't think so. Very good work. You've got the right connections.
That's right. You ask.
They answer in a hurry. Yes, my friend.
I will get back to you. Now the pitch. And it's in for a strike to Francisco Cervelli, who singled and scored in the 4th. Boy, TJ House flipped a switch somewhere along the line here.
That's exactly what he had to do.
Looked like he was teetering on the brink of being KO'd from the game. Trying to retire his 4th in a row now. And he hits Cervelli. Boy, how about that? That's the 2nd time in this series that he has been hit on the knee, and both times on a 2-strike pitch, if I remember.
Yeah, it was 2-2, I think, on the first game of this series. And I said earlier, he doesn't give. When he's on the plate, he stays right there, so he's going to take the brunt of it.
Well, this one, I think, got him on the inside of the knee. The other night, I think it was on the outside.
Yeah, I think you're right. They're covering the whole knee.
Mr. Inside, Mr. Outside. Joe Girardi knows a few things about being the catcher and getting hit by balls, and especially on the knees where you're in that crouch all night long.
Well, and he's been hit in the face a couple of times with the catcher's mask on. He's been beat up tonight. He's going to take his little time to get to first base, but not what House wanted to do. He had him down the count 0-2. He wanted to try and put him away and have a nice quick inning, because he's going to have to face the guy that took him deep last inning. Now, You watch House left a pitch that didn't quite get inside. He wanted it in a little more, and if he hit it hard, he would have pulled it foul, but it had a little too much of the plate on it. He took him down the line.
One-two pitch. Lonnie Chisenhall can't come up with it, and everybody's safe. Boy, it looked like he had it. I was getting ready to say it's a great play, and he just never quite brought it in.
This is what I think happened. When he jumped for it, he thought it was going to be higher than what it was. Let's take another look at it. Let's see. He thought it was going to be over his head, and that ball had some top spin on it coming down and hit him maybe in the heel of the glove. That's a ball. I'll tell you what, it was hit hard. It had top spin on it. It got him in the glove. He thought it was going to be a little bit higher, and it hit him in the heel.
So they give him a hit. But clearly should have been an out. Jan Hervis Solarte, 0 for 2 on the night. Strike caught on the inside corner, and it's 1-2. In the hole, the base hit coming around third. Cervelli's waved home. Dickerson's throw, not in time. 3-0 New York.
Yeah, and there's what we were talking about, the 0-2 hit batter, then a play that should have been made, and now you get a base hit, and now the inning's spinning away on you, and he's done. He's done for the night.
Yep, 2 outs, nobody on base. 0-2 count, and he hit Cervelli, and it spun out of control on him.
It sure did. Again, they had their chances all night, but I'll tell you what, his defense didn't really help him.
Nope.
But that's where you try to pick him up. He couldn't do it tonight, so House's night is over after 4 2/3 innings.
It's been a familiar refrain this year. Too many mistakes have done in this team time and time again. Cleveland Clinic call to the bullpen for Vinny Pastano when we come back. New York with a 3-0 lead. 2 on, 2 out. Brendan Ryan at the plate. New pitcher Vinny Pistano. Pistano was on a really good run before yielding the home run to Jacoby Ellsbury last night that was the difference in the game in the 14th inning. Since his recall in his last 9 games, that's the only run he's allowed. 4 hits, 8 strikeouts, has not walked a batter.
So in case you wanted to do something, I'm telling you, this will be his only hitter.
Swung on and missed. It's 0-2.
And I'm thinking this is Vinny's only hitter. Come on, he doesn't want to face left-handers, but this is the last right-hander to try and put an end to this inning.
Two pitches, 2 strikes for Pistano. Throw it right by him. Vinny comes on, strikes out Ryan to end the inning, but New York gets another gift run, and they lead it 3-0.
Thursday, July 17th at Classic Park in Eastlake for a celebrity softball game. The special event will feature Cleveland's pro football players in a home run derby. That'll start at 6 o'clock. The game will start at 7. Photos, autographs from the players will be available. If you would like tickets, go to captainsbaseball.com.
New York with a 3-0 lead. And the Indians will send Cabrera, Brantley, and Santana to the plate.
Well, for Phelps this year, he doesn't receive a lot of run support. On the season, they averaged about just a hair over 3, and they're at their 3 spot right now.
Well, Asdrubal Cabrera leads off the bottom of the 5th with a single. But it's already the 3rd time in 5 innings the Indians have had their leadoff man aboard, and they haven't been able to do anything with it yet.
Well, he jumped on the first pitch. He's been throwing first pitch strikes. That breaking ball, that's the first hit they got off a first pitch. They have been letting him throw pitches there, and while they get aggressive, they get a base hit. First pitch.
Michael Brantley, a single his first time up. Fly to right. Back in the 3rd. And a fastball strike at the knees.
The Indians have had their share of base runners in every inning. They've left 6 stranded to this point. They just haven't been able to cash in.
Pitch outside. 1-1 to count. Big bouncer to first. Teixeira steps on the bag, throws to second. Cabrera's in a rundown. And Jeter's still chasing Cabrera, and he finally tags him out. 2 away.
Now that's the old hot box. And that's what he did. He realized that Teixeira was probably going to step on first base. He might have taken a couple too many steps, but there's not much he could do in Cabrera in that situation. He's going down, and eventually he's going to get tagged out. Both of them smiling, running around out there. That's the hot boxer in the pickle. So a double play, 3-6.
Breaking ball. And Santana chases after it. Boy, he has not looked good tonight. He struck out both times up.
That stopped a string of 7 straight strikes for Phelps.
Against Santana. Pitches outside, 2-1. Big curveball, and he takes that for a strike. 2-2. Off the end of the bat to center field, and it's caught. The inning is over. 5 complete. It's the Yankees 3 and the Indians nothing. Zealous Wheeler's 2-run homer got the Yankees on the board first. Their only other run came on a 2-out RBI single by Yangervis Solarte in the 5th. The Indians have been shut out despite the fact they've had a hit in every inning tonight. Vinny Pistano got Brendan Ryan to end the 5th inning, stays on to start the 6th. Brett Gardner pops it foul over there toward Mick Kelleher. Left-hander Kyle Crockett warming in the Cleveland bullpen. Low in the dirt, 1-2.
Well, that's the pitch he made to Ellsbury last night that he didn't get down in the dirt. That slider down and in on an 0-2 count that ended up costing him. So you see he comes back with it today, and to get left-handers out, that's the pitch he's going to have to bury on their back foot.
Hit on his hands, popped him up. Pistano says, I'll take it. He does. 1 away. As promised earlier, it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Before the ball game, Indians presenting Derek Jeter with some going away gifts. His former teammates in New York, Nick Swisher, Jason Giambi, presenting him with a Lego portrait and a Gibson Les Paul electric guitar. Wayne Peltz on the far left is a guy's been working in the visitors clubhouse for a long time, and he has this unbelievable artistic ability to take Legos and turn them into portraits.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And they're phenomenal. And Jeter lines one into center field for a base hit. His second hit of the night and his 1,000th career multi-hit game.
That is incredible. 1,000.
Ty Cobb, Pete Rose, Stan Musial.
Speaker,
wow.
Yeah, just a select few. And that was, he was in there. He was in there for just, to get the right-hander out. He couldn't get him, but you give it up to Jeter. So 1-out single, that'll do it for Pistano.
So we've got a timeout. 3-0 New York. Kyle Crockett coming on now for the Indians. He's got Jacoby Ellsbury with Derek Jeter at first and one out. So Derek Jeter, with his 1,000th multi-hit game, joining Ty Cobb, Pete Rose, Stan Musial, Tris Speaker, and Hank Aaron. And among that very select group, only Jeter, Cobb, and Musial did it for the same team.
Yeah, there you go.
Jacoby Ellsbury 1 for 3 on the night.
Well, right now, Crockett's got the lefty and the righty, and on the year, left-hander's hitting 250 off Kyle, righty's 353.
In the air. Shallow center. In comes Michael Brantley. 2 down. So most games played all time, all with the same team.
Look at Yaz. 3,300. Stan the man. I mean, this is a thing that you won't see anymore. You know, with guys playing the same their whole career on one team, with free agency the way it goes and the way money has skyrocketed in baseball. I don't think you'll see a guy play with one team forever anymore. Hard to do.
Just think, if you play 150 games a year for 20 years, that's 3,000 games. 20 years.
I know.
Logging 150 games a year. That some of those numbers are just, whew.
Well, you look at it that way. You look at 3,000 hits. You know how many hits you have to get a year to do that, and
yeah, I think a lot of the offensive numbers are going to be hard to attain because of the way the game has been so specialized with the bullpens.
Well, you're not facing the same guy 4 times anymore like they used to. You're right. It's coming in. It's a specialty game. You could face 4 different pitchers in a night.
Yeah.
You may face a starter for 2 times and then get matched up with the other 2 times. I mean, you have to be a great player. Not only that, you have to be a healthy player to play 150 games in 1 year out of the 162. And he did it at a premium position at shortstop.
In the Big Fish Bowl, when George Steinbrenner was getting ready to launch the Yes Network, they were playing the Mets in the World Series. They had lost Game 3. George Steinbrenner was on the warpath. Joe Torre was starting to feel the heat, and Derek Jeter looked at Torre before the game and said, "Don't worry, I got you." And the Yankees went on. He smashed the first pitch out for a home run. The Yankees won the game, rolled to the World Series championship, and that's just the kind of player he's been throughout his career.
You know, you can't really match, eras, generations from generation. You can't do that. But I can tell you one thing. Derek Jeter could have played in any generation.
Yeah, I agree
in
with that.
baseball. You know what I'm saying? You can't match him. You can't, compare numbers and rate people. But I'll tell you what, all time, there you see some of the finest shortstops ever.
He would have been able to play on the Whitey Ford, Mickey Mantle teams because
no doubt.
he kept his mouth shut. It wasn't about look at me, look at me. He wasn't one of those kind of guys. Those kind of guys back in their era would have had a few balls under their chin. I mean, they'd have been knocked off the plate.
Well, he would have been able to play in any era in
no doubt.
in my estimation, because he fits into the game. Because you know why? He plays the game of baseball, and that's all. He cares about winning.
I think we've got a guy here in Cleveland that fits into that same mold. His name is Michael Brantley. Not a look-at-me guy, just plays hard, brings the same level, attitude, and feeling every single ball game.
I don't agree with you. I mean, I don't disagree with you there. Wouldn't it be nice if he could do that for 20 straight years?
Whew.
I mean, think about it. That's what you have to do. to become a great one.
One pitch low and away.
And if he could become that way and continue, could they keep him here and pay him for 20 years?
Yeah. Every market outside of New York and L.A. has to answer those same questions.
Right.
I mean, there's only a few
right.
markets that can afford to say, hey, whatever you need, just let us know. We'll write the check and send it off to you in the mail.
It is different. It's getting more difficult, I think, for a lot of players to stay in a smaller market.
The 2-2. Out of play.
I mean, you think about it now, the Angels that they signed the big deals. They signed Mike Trout. Well, they made a steal signing him now, but he's coming up one more time. He'll only be 28.
Yeah.
Can he re-sign there, and stay with him? That'll be something to watch, because will they give him the long-term deals like they gave an Albert Pujols, because they're going to end up living through a 10-year deal and finding out what it's like.
2-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. He struck him out to end the inning. Nice job by Vinny Pistano and Kyle Crockett. And we'll go to the bottom of the sixth. Still 3-0 New York.
For families is the KeyBank Kids Value Ticket. Available every game at Progressive Field. Each kid receives $15 for free use on concessions or merchandise. Visit Indians.com/kidsvalue and purchase your tickets today.
Full moon, huh?
Well, officially tomorrow, but yeah, we're getting there. Or maybe Saturday. I'm thinking today's Friday. It's official Saturday.
Okay.
Sorry.
Wow.
A couple days, but it's a beauty.
And right now the Indians need some offense. They've had a hit, one hit in every inning tonight. But they are 0 for 6 with a runner in scoring position. As Lonnie Chisnall leads off, his first 2 times up, he's batted with runners in scoring position with 2 outs both times. Now trying to start something, drives it to deep center. Ellsbury back on the track. And he makes the catch. He hit it to the big part of the yard. And just about 400 feet away, Ellsbury made the catch.
Well, Ellsbury made a nice running catch on him the last time, but this one had a little bit of air under it. He gets back. He knows he's getting near the wall right at that 400-foot sign. That's a long lot out.
According to Yankees general manager Brian Cashman, this news just being reported, Masahiro Tanaka has a partially torn elbow ligament.
Partially torn.
Partially torn. So that doesn't necessarily mean he needs Tommy John surgery. Depends on how severe the tear is, I suppose. It could be, something that if they shut him down and rest it. If I remember right, maybe about 10 or so years ago, I don't remember the exact year, Bob Wickman had that same thing happen in spring training. It was a partial tear of his elbow ligament. And they were able to rest him, and he was able to come back without having that surgery.
That's a guy that's not a starter, though, and throwing all those pitches.
Yeah. Again, I think it depends on the severity of the tear, but that's not good news for the Yankees.
No, it's not. And, I was talking with Ken Singleton, who does their games, and right now working with David Cohn. He said his last 2 starts, he just doesn't seem to be the guy he was. Then when he gave up the 4 runs to Minnesota and the 5 runs to the Indians. But I still thought he threw the ball very well. There's Kenny. Great player in his day with the Baltimore Orioles, switch hitter.
Yeah, it wasn't like watching that game and you'd say, oh, boy, there's something. This guy.
Right. No. He still had great stuff, and he was throwing 5 or 6 pitches.
Remember, Brian McCann caught him. He came in the next day and said, what? He's on the DL?
Right.
He couldn't believe it.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to tell that he had anything wrong with him. Let me put it that way.
Fastball fouled out of play. Oh, he rings him up. Murphy thought it was low, but home plate umpire Brian Knight said no. That's the 5th strikeout of the night for Phelps. 2 down here in the 6th, and it's time for another Mazda game break with Al.
Well, Matt, tonight in Kansas City, the Detroit Tigers scored 3 runs in the first inning, thanks in part to this base hit by Torrey Hunter that drove in Ian Kinsler. So far, it stood up. They're ahead 3-1 over the Royals, 4th inning at Kauffman Stadium. Matt?
All right, thanks, Al. Curveball.
Yeah, that ends a string of 8 straight first pitch strikes.
And Swisher taking it's a called strike. New York Yankees general manager Brian Cashman saying that Tanaka will undergo non-surgical rehab, so the partial tear not severe enough that they're looking at surgery, at least at this point. They're thinking now that he'll miss 6 weeks, and if at that time they don't think the rehab's working, then Tommy John surgery. Feel bad for Tanaka. He was having a terrific year. 3-2 pitch. Fouled back out of play. But, you know, it does bear mentioning. I think we talked about this when Tanaka faced the Indians. Pitchers coming from Japan, their season isn't nearly as long, and a lot of times they pitch only once a week.
Right, they do. once a
So
week.
the most he ever pitched in Japan was 226 innings. To first base. Teixeira flips it, and the Indians go 1, 2, 3. 6 complete. It remains New York 3, Cleveland nothing. Check out our Panini's Overstuffed cam. Carlos Carrasco will take over for Kyle Crockett, who worked 2/3 of a scoreless inning. He'll be facing 6, 7, and 8 in the New York lineup. Francisco Cervelli, Zealous Wheeler, and Jan Hervis Solarte all due up. Back out of play.
You know, this game is really intact because the Yankees, when 3 runs they have scored, they have left 11 on base. They have had opportunities to have many more runs.
Fastball strike.
You know,
it's 0-2.
Used to seeing a Yankee team that comes in and they were dominant starting rotation and they score 900 runs a year and they hit a ton of long balls. Well, it's a different Yankees team this year, and they have had a lot of injuries that you have to deal with, especially on the pitching end of it.
He went around. Another strikeout. 1 down here in the 7th.
This is that 5th inning that got him going, and it ended up getting T.J. House out of the game. A play that certainly I thought Chisenhall should have made. And House was down. He had 2 outs, nobody on at an 0-2 count. Cervelli hit him, and then you get an error and then a base hit, and that was the 3rd run.
2 down.
But the difference this year in the American League East, Matt, I don't think anybody's going to run away with it. So every one of those teams there feel if they put a hot string together in the second half, they all have a chance.
Well, why wouldn't you?
And I think you're going to have to win that East because I believe that wild card is coming from the West. The way it looks right now, because Toronto's back into the pack, Baltimore is playing very well, New York's just 3 back, and Tampa feels the way that it's pitching right now and the way they were playing, they still have a chance. They feel that
I
way.
don't know. I mean, they won 7 out of 10, so they're feeling good, but they're still a long way off.
I agree, but that's the way Joe Maddon and those guys feel. If they get on a roll, that they can get hot too. So we'll see, because the trading deadline at the end of the month, David Price is a guy that they might be able to trade. He's a free agent at the end of the year. We'll see how they really feel about it.
Well, Oakland fired the first big shot, acquiring not 1 but 2 starting pitchers for their rotation. So I think everybody else in the league's going, uh-oh.
Billy Beane didn't wait around, did he? He went after. He knew what he wanted. He went and got it. You give him credit.
To center field, Michael Brantley makes the catch. 1, 2, 3, go the Yankees. We go to the 7th inning stretch. Brought to you by Spitzer Auto World. Life is hard. Buying a car shouldn't be. Three 0 New York, bottom of the 7th. Dickerson, Perez, and Kipnis due up for the Indians. Time now for AT&T fan photo of the game. Don't forget to tweet your photos to us using the hashtag STOFanPhoto for a chance to have them shown during one of our telecasts. Great aerial shot. Well, David Phelps has done a number on the Indians tonight. Shutout baseball through 6 innings. He has not given up an extra base hit. He's given up 5 singles. Walked a couple, struck out 5. Actually, he's walked 3 and struck out 5, but none of those walks have hurt him. Chris Dickerson awaits a breaking ball, and it's a little bit low.
Well, the Indians got to start making a charge, because it's been that way in this series. The team that takes the lead early ends up giving it back.
Checked his swing, and it's foul, out of play.
But now you're into that territory where the Yanks will have their bullpen ready to roll. You know, he's giving you 6+. We'll see how much farther Girardi wants to stay with him. He's not a guy that goes deep into the games. Well, I'll tell you what, you keep him no runs going into the 7th. You'll take it every time.
And Dickerson with another hit, his second of the night and his sixth since joining the Indians.
And that's what they need, that leadoff man aboard. Now we'll see. And put a little pressure on Girardi.
No, fourth time in 7 innings the Indians have had their leadoff man aboard.
Well, Dollar Dog Night takes place Friday, August 1st, when the Rangers come to town. This is after the All-Star break, after we get back from the long road trip. It'll be post-game fireworks show as well, set to the hits of 1994.
Roberto Perez has grounded out and walked tonight. Out of play. After tonight's game, the Yankees are heading to Baltimore to wrap up this long road trip. 11 games.
They started in Minnesota, didn't they?
Yeah, 4 with the Twins, 4 here in Cleveland, and then 3 with the Orioles to take them to the All-Star break.
Yeah, the Yankees have only played 41 home games so far this year, so they've got a lot of catching up to do. When we came home from this road trip before we started this homestand, the Indians had the most road games in the league. But they're playing catch up now going into the break.
Line drive, base hit left field. Roberto Perez with his first major league hit. And it comes at a great time as the Indians have their first 2 on now here in the bottom of the 7th.
Congratulations, young man. It comes at the right time. His third at bat, and they will put that in the locker. Good for him. There it is. There comes Joe Girardi. I didn't think he would stay long. The first 2 guys reach, and they're going to turn it over to the top of the lineup. Well, the first major league hit for the young catcher.
So Roberto Perez is at first. Chris Dickerson is at second. And David Phelps is headed for the showers. We've got a timeout in Cleveland. This Saturday, doubleheader on Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports. Baseball Night in America, we got it all for you. Begins Saturday at 3:30 Eastern on FS1, continues at 7 Eastern only on Fox and Fox Sports Go. All right, so key spot now here for the Indians as Jason Kipnis is coming up. The Indians have their first two on, nobody out. And a great opportunity to get themselves into this thing.
No doubt. This is it. This is their push.
0 for their last 10 as a team with runners in scoring position in this series. Jason has walked, singled, and flied to center.
Well, when you're coming in, you're going to face Matt Thornton. You are going to get a fastball to hit. You just make him get it down a little bit. He likes to throw that high fastball. He'll show you the slider, but he's primarily a fastball pitcher.
Kipnis bunts. Oh, and it hit the lip and kicked foul. It was going to be a perfect bunt, but it hit that lip and just took a left-hand turn.
Yes, it did. If it stays on the grass, it's going to go as an infield hit because I believe that he had. Watch it hit the lip. Yeah, man, it took that spin and rolled foul. Good idea by Kipnis. I think he was bunting for a base hit right there, no doubt, down 3-0. Just a tough break. Solarte was, I think he would have got him. He would have burned him.
Well, Solarte's playing in on the grass now.
This is not a bunt situation.
Kipnis fouls it out of play. 0-2.
But that's the thing. A lot of high fastballs with Thornton. He may take you off that high fastball and show you a breaking ball to try and get you to chase. But for the most part, you're going to get the heat. He still throws 95. We told you this guy's had years of 60-plus appearances every time he's with a ball club.
Up the middle, it kicks off the glove of Thornton, and the bases are loaded. Oh, the Indians catch a huge break there. If Thornton gloves it, it's possibly a double play. But he deflected it just enough that Ryan, who was going up the middle to maybe make a play on it, had to hit the brakes, and his wheels came out from under him.
Yeah, worst case scenario, they would have got one. They had a chance if he lets it go. But, I mean, that ball was smoked. That was an 0-2 pitch. It goes off his glove. That might have been into center field anyway for a base hit. That ball was hit pretty hard, but a nice job by Kipnis down in the count 0-2. He keeps that rally moving. Keep it going. 3
straight singles now have loaded him up for Asdrubal Cabrera.
They can be right back into this ball game. Something that they've done well. I don't know how many times I've heard you say with the bases loaded, the Tribe has been the best. Now they got to take advantage here in the 7th.
Fly ball, right field, near the line. Wheeler won't get it. Fair ball into the corner. Dickerson scores. Perez scores. Here comes Kipnis, throw to the plate. Not in time. Asdrubal Cabrera with a bases clearing triple. And we are tied at 3.
This is going to be our McDonald's. I'm loving it. Cabrera wasted no time. He jumped on that first pitch from Thornton. And out in right field, Wheeler was not going to get there. It gets down the line. He clears the bases. You had good speed on first with Kipnis. He knew it was going to fall. He was off and running. I mean, he was motoring. So we have a tied ball game now with the go-ahead run at third base and still nobody out. 4 straight hits for the Indians. As that relay comes home, it wouldn't have got Kipnis anyway. That fired him up. That got the crowd into it.
And now the go-ahead run is 90 feet away, so the Yankees have to bring the infield in with nobody out, and Michael Brantley takes ball 1.
That's the second triple for Asdrubal.
I'm not sure, but I think that's his first at-bat this year with the bases loaded.
Is that right?
I think it was. Pitch is inside. Yeah. I did not see him listed. No, I beg your pardon. He was 1 for 6. So 2 for 7 now on the year, but a huge hit for Cabrera.
Yeah. I mean, we got a tie ball game, so Phelps's work is goes for naught. The Indians come right back. 4 straight hits.
Swung out and missed. Tied him up with a good pitch.
Yeah, good pitch there inside. Made him work those hands. Boy, quiet, dead for 6 innings, and then all of a sudden, a spark of life.
Yeah, 4 straight hits to open the inning.
Maybe it took him a while, though, to wake up today after that long game yesterday. I don't know, whatever it is, boy, it's fun now. The people are into it.
Well, the crowd is definitely pumped. And with Cabrera at third base, 2-1 pitch to Brantley is hit the center field. Ellsbury charging hard, slides, makes the catch, but tagging and coming home to score is Cabrera, and the Indians have the lead. Brantley with his RBI number 61 on the season.
Tell you what, Ellsbury, a beautiful job to rob Brantley of a hit. But Cabrera did a great job of staying right on the bag. He got back. He was tagging all the way. I mean, and he took off as soon as he saw that Ellsbury made the catch, so it'll be a sacrifice fly. Watch, he goes right back to the bag. He didn't hesitate. You go ahead and make that great catch, but I'm going to score. So the Indians come back with a 4 spot and take the lead. Well done. Well, they finally get the first out, and you got to steal it. A hit from Brantley to get it.
3 straight singles, a 3-run triple, and a sac fly.
Boy, how quickly did that happen? Matter of fact, I asked that question. Here's Bo with a sign. 4 hits in 11 pitches.
Well, Chris Dickerson, who was just acquired a few days ago from Pittsburgh, started it. Roberto Perez, who just got called up, made his major league debut tonight, got the next hit. Then the infield single by Kipnis, Cabrera the 3-run triple, and Brantley brings home the go-ahead run on a sac fly. We've got a timeout in Cleveland, 4-3 Tribe. Indians with a 4-3 lead, and it all happened here in the 7th inning. As Dribble Cabrera cleared the bases with a triple down into the right field corner. And then Michael Brantley brought home Cabrera with a sac fly.
Yeah, that's, you know, they were having a tough time getting that big hit, but Cabrera got it on the first pitch, did a nice job of base running, getting in on the sacrifice fly, and Jim Miller comes on now for the Yankees to face Santana.
He's the only guy that didn't pitch last night for New York. And Santana swings at the first pitch and fouls it out of play. Santana has struck out twice and flied to center. Breaking ball missed inside, 1-1.
It's elsewhere. It's at my house. Baby and everything. No. Murph got tired. He's taking the night off there. I'm already babysitting for him.
Almost hit him. And it's 2-1. Low and inside, 3-1. Miller ready now. Now, time's called. Taking too much time, so everybody's stepping off, stepping out.
This guy's got to lead the league in full counts, I would think. I don't think they keep track or anything like that, but I've never seen anybody that has more full counts than Santana.
Fouled into the photo well next to the Yankee dugout. Bounce foul.
Well, you know, you ask and you shall receive around here. Redbird tells me that he is third in baseball when it comes to plate appearances with a full count. He has 80. That trails Mike Trout and Carpenter with the Cardinals. So I knew he had to be up there. Anybody that has more 3-2 counts than this guy is doing something.
Jim Miller's making the most out of this appearance, and why not? He has spent parts of 10 seasons in the minor leagues.
Right next to us. Oh, my goodness. Now, we don't get many up here. That between the press box and our booth. We had Bart and Court over there. They were looking at it, hit the window. That got up here in a hurry, though, didn't it? See, there's Court in the blue shirt. There's Bart in the red jacket. There's Popper. That woke him up. That was his wake-up call.
Sure
he was sleeping. He didn't know anything.
He's wide awake now.
Yeah, he is.
Attention, media.
Can I have your attention, please? That was a foul ball.
3 balls, 2 strikes. 1 out here in the 7th. Indians on top 4-3. Ripped to right, caught. Perfectly placed is Brendan Ryan with the shift on. Out number 2.
That's the roving outfielder there. That's amazing. how deep he was. And I mean a line drive, but it's all for naught, man. You talk about the shifts. This is exactly what they talk about, how the defensive shifts are taking hits away from guys in baseball that continue to try and pull it like that. And look at that. Unbelievable. Played perfectly. Just shake your head. You can't do anything more than that as a hitter.
This is the 50th game of Jim Miller's career in his 10 professional seasons in the big leagues. And 33 of those games came 2 years ago with Oakland. So this guy has spent a lot of time beating the bush, as they say.
Well, we must have never faced him. I don't remember him with Oakland. But you're right. He's
ground ball up the middle, and it's through. Lonnie Chisenhall with his first hit of the night.
Fifth hit.
Keeps the inning alive.
In the inning for the Tribe. That's the first for Lonnie tonight. He's hit the ball on the nose a number of times, at least twice tonight. But this is going to be his first hit, so the Tribe now with 10.
Lonnie's not much of a base stealer, but coming into this year, in his time in the big leagues, opponents were 12 for 12 stealing bases against Miller.
I'll tell you what, Lonnie can run better than I think most people think. If you don't pay attention, you can you pick the right pitch.
Not a bad time to try it either with 2 outs now that you have the lead.
I'm just wondering if he's going to give Murphy 2 strikes, a chance with 2 strikes before you send him.
Yeah. Down low with it, 2 balls and a strike.
Yeah, they're thinking along the same lines with that throw over there to pay attention.
Lonnie Chisenhall taking his lead with 2 down. And the 2-2 pitch is up high, full count. So now he'll take off and see if Murphy can find a gap.
Yeah, that'd be nice. This has been a great inning for the Indians. It's been 33 pitches by the Yankee pitchers. It's been a 25-minute inning. And they're still not done with it yet. They'd like to add on some more.
Strikes out to end the inning. But what a comeback for the Tribe. Asdrubal Cabrera with a 3-run triple and a sac fly by Brantley, and the Indians have a 4-3 lead.
Of the Cleveland Indians and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cleveland Indians.
Well, the Indians come back in the bottom half of that seventh, take a 4-3 lead over the Yankees, and stay tuned after the game for Indians Live, brought to you by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. The boys out in center field have all the action for you following this game. Scott Atchison coming on in the eighth inning. Carrasco went his inning and had one strikeout. For Atchison, his 38th appearance, a record of 3-0. 27 strikeouts in his 38 2/3 innings. He's coming on. He's going to face 9-1-2, and he's going to get a pinch hitter now. Ichiro coming on for Ryan.
Brendan Ryan 0 for 8 in the series with 5 strikeouts. So Ichiro trying to get something started now for New York. Foul, and it's 0-2. Ichiro, believe it or not, is 4 for 6 as a pinch hitter, so he's done quite a bit of this.
Well, that's what they're looking for, their leadoff man. Atchison got him the last time he faced with a high fastball up and in, if you remember. He's going the same way. He doesn't want him to just get over there and slap it the other way.
Outside, 2-2. Now the 2-2. Breaking ball, and
How
Ichiro
about that?
slaps it in the left field for a base hit.
I mean, you know he's trying to do that, and boy, just the hands. I mean, he makes you shake your head. He wanted to go upstairs with a high fastball. That is career hit 2,800. Watch this swing. See, that ball went down and away. He just waited, and all of a sudden just slaps it the other way. He had the chance, tried to tie him up the pitch before, couldn't do it, so the tying run is on first base now with nobody out.
I think he's practicing announcing.
Well, here's Brett Gardner now, 1 out of 4 on the night. Kind of an interesting strategical play here. Down a run on the road. 8th inning, though. Do you bunt with Jeter on deck and Ellsbury to follow?
Well, with this guy, Gardner can put the ball in play. You know what I mean? He can slash, he can run. He feels maybe he can beat out a double play ball unless you hit a one hopper right at him. You don't want to give up and out in this situation. He wants him to first and third him. That'll give you good speed on the bases. He has a good eye at the plate.
Well, now it doesn't matter. If he doesn't see a strike.
Well, and knowing this guy, he probably will take 2.
Yeah.
But we will see.
And Atchison does find the strike zone, 3-1. Chisenhall still in on the grass over at third. Cabrera shading him up the middle, so pretty good hole on that left side if Gardner tries to slap one that way. He does, but it's right at Cabrera. To Kipnis, there's one on the turn. Double play! The only way you're going to turn a double play on Gardner is if he scorches one right at an infielder. And that's exactly what he did. Cabrera stayed right with it. A perfect flip to Kipnis, who made a strong feed onto Santana.
And you see how hard that ball was hit, and he still made it close at first base. So that's why he didn't bunt him. But he smoked it. It was right at a player. They turn it. Well done. And he was behind 3-0 in that situation and came back.
What What a turn of events for Scott Atchison. I mean, he went from on the verge of being in serious hot water to 2 outs and nobody on base. Only the second time this year Gardner has hit into a double play. But that's where baseball is such a fun game, because it leaves you open to second guessing at every turn. Derek Jeter with 2 hits on the night.
It can leave you second guessing, but the managers know their player better than anybody, you know, on both sides, and that's what they do.
And he's playing the odds there that at worst case scenario, he's not going to hit into a double play, and that's exactly what he ended up doing.
Well, that happens sometime. He hit the ball right on the nose. He had the count in his favor. It happens.
Derek Jeter now in what could be his final at-bat in Cleveland. Down in the count. 1 ball, 2 strikes with 2 outs. Oh, Atchison thought he had him rung up, did not get the call.
Made a good pitch. Sitting right there, that ball comes back, and maybe because it's Derek Jeter, he gets a call, but it was an awfully good pitch.
Swung out and missed. He got him. Atchison comes back to strike out Jeter. And the inning is over. The captain is perplexed. Girardi coming out to argue, thinking maybe the ball hit the ground. He'll take another look at it. We'll go to a break. 4-3 Cleveland. The Indians lead it. Bottom of the 8th inning. Derek Jeter striking out. He argued that the ball hit the ground. The umpire said no. Tell you what, it was interesting. I'm not sure, did he actually get a piece of it?
He did get a piece of it.
It
looked like.
Okay.
I thought he did. I could be wrong. I thought he did get a piece of it.
Solarte goes from third over to second. Wheeler comes in from right field and goes to third. And Ichiro is now in right field. First ball swing, Nick Swisher fouls it off. Swisher couldn't hold up. One down here in the 8th. In-game box score brought to you by Hyundai. Jason Kipnis with a couple of hits at the top of the order, a stolen base and a run scored. Cabrera with 2 hits, but of course the monster 3-run triple that brought home Dickerson, Roberto Perez, who had his first major league hit tonight, and of course Kipnis. All the action happening in that 7th inning, but remember the Indians had 1 hit in each of the first 5 innings tonight, but couldn't string anything together. But in the 7th, they strung them together in a hurry. And Chris Dickerson stays laser-locked at the plate, and now he's got his first extra base hit as an Indian as he strolls into second with a 1-out double, his 3rd hit of the night.
He's been about as hot as you can get, hasn't he? Swung the bat very well. 3 for 4 tonight. Now the Indians with a chance to put an insurance run out there. That ball smoked. It was passed to Sherry. He thought he might have had a chance at it.
And now Roberto Perez, who singled and scored his last time up. Swing and a miss. So you think Roberto Perez was maybe a bit of a long shot? He was a 33rd round pick back in 08. Over 1,000 players were drafted before him.
Wow.
But he's just continued to work hard and trying to make himself into a better player. You know, offensively, he's never done anything to wow the Indians throughout his career. A .227 hitter throughout the minor leagues coming into this year. But defensively, he's worked very hard. He's improved his skills tremendously.
Well, when you're at that position, that's #1 priority, defense at the catching position, handle the pitchers, call the games. As any manager will tell you, we want that first. Catch, throw, call the games, and then hopefully the hitting will come around.
He impressed Sandy Alomar, Kevin Cash, Mickey Callaway. Had a good spring training, and then he went out and hit 300 at AAA this year, too. That didn't hurt.
Well, I'm sure that's why he's here.
Well, look, once the Indians had to designate Contreras for assignment to make room for some of the roster shuffling that they had to do when Masterson went down on the DL, I think it was pretty clear that they did not want to take a chance on putting Santana back behind the plate. You know, the concussion problem, and
right.
they just, hey, not a good idea. So they needed somebody. And
and he's not going to get a lot of, catching opportunities, but when he does, you want him to go in there and do the job.
And you want somebody who can go in there, I think, more importantly, defensively, and
Sure
handle
you
the
do.
staff and just take care of business.
Well, his starts are going to be day games after night games, probably against some of the better pitchers in the game to give Gomes a rest when he needs it.
The old anything he gives you offensively is a bonus type deal.
And he's your own guy, so why not?
2-2 pitch. Outside, he's showing good patience here. Full count. It's always nice, too, when you can call a guy up who's either A, in the midst of a hot streak, or B, having a good offensive season. So he's got some good mojo coming with him. Three-two pitch. Bouncing ball third. It's a foul ball by inches. And Perez was running. He didn't see the call. Look at him.
Yeah,
he's running like a man on fire, and unfortunately he's got to go back to home plate and start all over again.
You know what? That's quite all right. You don't know. You
Great
just
hustle.
keep going. He didn't see the third base umpire call a foul ball, so he's hustling to try and beat it out. Then he sees the ball get past Teixeira, so he says, I'm going, baby. And I'll tell you, that wasn't foul by much. I'm talking an inch or two. And once he sees this, I mean, he's, all right, I'm going to second. Let's go. Figured a run would score, so that's good hustle.
Well, Field and Culberth had never made a signal, and that's why Perez kept going to second base until he was already by Culberth. So
when in doubt, keep going. They can always tell you, hey, it's foul. They did. He had to go back and get a new bat, catch your breath. Tell you, he's laid off a couple of good pitches, though, with 2 strikes. Take your time, young fella.
Roberto said, hey, I'm still trying to catch my breath, man.
Yeah, the umpire saying, sorry, we didn't tell you.
All right, so we will go again on the 3-2 pitch with Dickerson at second base. High fly ball, deep left field. Gardner back. He's out of room. It's out of here. No, off the top of the wall. Coming around third. Dickerson's going to be waved home. He will score. Roberto Perez gets a second chance and doubles high off the wall in left field to make it a 5-3 ball game. But Terry Francona's going to come out and say, hey, how about taking a second look? We think it's a home run.
I couldn't tell, Matt, with all the people out there, but I mean, how close can you get? He said no. I saw him wave. It didn't go out. I'm sure they may take a look. Let's take a replay. I mean, he comes back. How about this young man? Comes back and juices one to the outfield, and is it out of here? Let's take a look.
Oh, it's right off the top.
Right,
I mean,
on
off
the
very
line.
top.
They might have had a good look on it.
Does it hit the railing, or does it hit right on top of the fence? I think, well,
I don't know.
Boy.
It comes straight up. I think if it hits the railing,
watch
it comes
the wall
back
ripple.
more.
Look at the ripple through the wall.
That's right at the top of the line, and now those guys might have made a great call. You know what? Because it bounced straight up. If it hits the railing, I think it ricochets more towards the infield. Wow. That guy was on it. It did hit the yellow line. Now, whether it hit the railing behind that, I don't know. One thing for sure, Dickerson's going to score, so they have one run in.
You got to run in and a runner at second base no matter what. The only question is, does it hit the railing, which makes it a home run if it does?
Well,
left corner on the replay.
Oh, you can't tell. It's too far away.
Well, you know what? I don't know.
Too far away.
It almost looks like the ball did change direction once it hit.
Yeah, but if they can't see it hitting the railing, they're not going to be able to overturn
does it
I
hit
wouldn't
before
think.
or after? I think it hits the yellow line, goes back, hits the railing, and then comes forward. Because the people immediately react to, it's a home run. And I think it hits the yellow line first, then goes up, hits the railing, and then kicks back onto the field.
Your eyes are better than mine. If you, I can't tell you. I know it hits the yellow line. And I'll tell you what, that umpire having to run out there and hustle, that's a pretty good call. Because the railings are really tough to tell here. We've seen it a number of times. So let's see. They're going to have convincing evidence to overturn this.
That's true, too.
I don't think that they're going to be able to overturn this because you don't see it from our replay hitting that railing. Now, I'll tell you what. Unless they have a different shot, they might be able to overturn it.
Oh, that looks like it hits the railing. They're showing a replay angle in the stadium that's not one of our cameras, but it looks like from that angle it hits the railing.
I'd like to see that.
Well, here we go. We've got our decision, and here's what they're going to tell us.
Let's give the kid a home run.
Yes,
Can you
sir!
do it? How about that?
Roberto Perez gets his first home run, one at bat after getting his first hit in the big leagues.
Well done.
What a night for Roberto Perez.
Well, that's one heck of a way to get your first home run. You got to sit out there and wait and get it reviewed. Well, he won't forget it. He had a lot of time to think about it. Congratulations there. That's 2 ribbies.
Pitch down and in. Line drive, base hit in the center field for Jason Kipnis. That's his 3rd hit tonight. 3rd straight hit in the inning, and Larry Rothschild, pitching coach, going to come out and talk to Jim Miller.
Yeah, that pitch he left up in the zone to Kipnis, and he just jumped all over it. Indians now with 13 hits. Kipnis, Dickerson, both of them with 3 hits.
Boy, Roberto Perez grounded out his first time up tonight. Then he drew a walk in the 4th inning. Then in the 7th, got his first major league hit, came around to score on the 3-run triple by Cabrera. And now here in the 8th, after a ball that he thought was fair, because he never heard anybody tell him otherwise, he was already to second base before he realized he had to go back to home plate, had to get a new bat because the bat was broken, and on the next pitch, kaboom. And had to wait for an official replay to overturn it and give him his first home run.
What a night for the young man.
Upstairs, 1-0. Wow, Detroit is pummeling Kansas City tonight. 14-2, the Tigers lead it in the 6th inning at Kauffman Stadium. White Sox lost earlier today to Boston. They'll be here tomorrow to open up a 3-game weekend series to take us into the All-Star break.
Yeah, you have to keep your eye on Kipnis. He has a stolen base tonight. That came back in the 3rd inning. He has 12 on the year.
Oh, man, that sent the umpire to the turf. Brian Knight went down immediately. Jeff Desjardins sprinting out of the Indians' dugout. Trainer out there to check him out. I'm not sure, Rick, if it got him on the side of the head or if it got him in the neck. Well, it was just a direct hit on the shoulder. I couldn't tell.
I don't know if it was his shoulder or the mask.
And as dribble Cabrera, he felt awful because he was right there on the follow through. Looked like it got him on the neck, didn't it?
Yeah, side of the mask, and right there, I'm not quite sure what it hit, but
oh
boy, staggering. I'd be surprised to see him stay in the game.
I mean,
yeah.
In addition to
maybe right on that collarbone.
That's what it looks like. Jeff is checking out. In addition to being in a lot of pain, you'd just be concerned that the shot itself didn't daze him a little bit, but he appears to be okay.
Well, I'll tell you what, good for him. He's a tough guy. Yeah, he wants him to move it. Nothing.
Jeff's giving him pretty good once over.
Well, you know, those guys, they find the spot, those trainers, man, and they make you jump when you get hit. So he must be feeling okay. Normally they do it, and you're saying, man, hey, stop it.
Stop, yeah.
What's wrong with you?
You know, it didn't hurt before you jammed your thumb in there.
No kidding. So he must be all right.
Jeff's talking to Fielding Colbert, who's the crew chief behind him there. He wants to know, is he okay to continue? All right. He got the okay. Baseball has a way of showing you a tender moment like that, and yet on the very next pitch, you could have Cabrera or Cervelli or the pitcher ready to raise a riot with Brian Knight.
If he doesn't make the call they want.
Exactly. I mean, baseball is really the only sport where umpires are routinely in the line of fire. I mean, in NFL, NBA, rarely does an official maybe get run over. Occasionally it happens, he gets caught up in the play. But in baseball, it's almost a nightly occurrence where an umpire gets hit with a foul tip or fly ball, left center. Ellsbury makes the grab, 2 down. We had an incident in spring training this year where we had a base umpire who got hit with a line drive out on the bases, and he had to leave the game.
Well, that happens, and they're so close to the action. You know, it's tough to get out of the way sometimes.
Michael Brantley with a sacrifice fly that gave the Indians the lead in the 7th. Runner goes, throw down, and Swisher able to hang on, or excuse me, Kipnis able to hang on to the bag before he slid off of it. His second steal of the night, giving 13 on the year.
Yeah, he steals it, he gets the hand in, but does he come off? He had that foot over there just in case the hand did. No, he was able to steal it, his second tonight.
And Brantley with a one-off smash. It eats up Jeter into center field. It goes. Kipnis around third. He will score. 7-3 Cleveland.
And Jeter's in pain right now. I don't know if that went up the forearm and got him on the wrist. But I'll tell you what, that hurt.
That was a smash.
Yes, it was. That was a vicious line drive smash off the bat of Michael Brantley. Watch it. See where it gets Jeter. It looked like it right above the wrist.
Oh.
I mean, that hurt. Watch him. Yeah, that cannot feel good right there. He will have ice on that right after the game.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe right on the fat part of the thumb, you know, just below the wrist might have got him.
And that even hurts. Boy,
Yeah.
that's a big bone bruise waiting to happen. Look at it. He is in pain. He doesn't want anything hit his way. Look at that. He can't even rest that hand on his knee.
I hope folks could appreciate watching at home with that super slow-mo look we had at just how hard that ball was hit. You could tell by the look on his face. He knew this was potentially not going to be good.
No. I would have got out of the way and let it go into center. Save my hand. I mean, you watch.
Jeter's face. Just watch his reaction on his face like, oh, boy. Ooh.
Yes, it did. It went right off there, the thumb. You're right, the fat part of the thumb, and he will have a bone bruise there. Keep an eye. We'll see if he's in the lineup tomorrow. I'd be surprised. That thing was smoked. Yeah, he's still hurt. And you know what? The good thing about it, he made the last out. He doesn't have to hit in the ninth. He's just trying to get off the field right now.
Santana sends a high drive, deep right. Ichiro will wave goodbye. A 5-run 8th inning for the Indians. And they have blown the lid off this baby. Home run number 14 for Carlos Santana. 9-3 Indians. Jim Miller has given up two 2-run homers in the inning. Lonnie Chisenhall takes up high ball 1.
Well, he's been upstairs with everything, too. Miller has. He has given up some loud hits. Very loud. And they turn this game into a rout. It's been 9 unanswered for the Indians.
That's right. I mean, New York had a 3-0 lead since the 5th inning. But the Indians turned it around with 4 in the 7th, and they've added 5 in the 8th. And it's up and away, 3-0.
Girardi hoping this guy can get done. He doesn't want to get through and go back into that bullpen, but I don't know if this guy can get out of the inning.
Well, for long-suffering Indians fans who have seen the Yankees year in and year out torment this team for decades, they can't get enough of this. 3-1 pitch. Ball 4. And the 9th man to bat in the inning will be David Murphy. Right now, Derek Jeter saying to Jim Miller, look, I got to get some ice on this thumb, so would you please throw strikes and get the 3rd out of the inning. Nick Hagedorn loosening for the Indians in the bullpen. Murphy with a line shot to right. Ichiro makes the catch, and that will end the inning. What an inning for the Indians. A pair of 2-run homers for the Tribe, and they lead it 9-3. And we invite you to stay tuned for Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care, coming up after the game. 28,334. Most of them enjoying this one. I say most of them because there are a good number of Yankee fans here tonight. They have been throughout the series, but while they may have been enjoying the laughs early, it's the Indians who have had all the fun in the last 2 innings.
Yeah, it's a different game. The first 6 innings, it was not looking good. But the 7th and 8th, the Indians just turned it around, and they put a 4 spot and then a 5 spot on the board. 64 pitches by Yankee pitchers in the last 2.
You saw Derek Jeter on the bench talking to the Yankees trainer Steve Donahue. He's been in that organization a long time. He was the assistant to Gene Monahan, who was there, seemed like forever. Scott Atchison deals to Jacoby Ellsbury a first pitch strike. Atchison working a scoreless 8th inning. But boy, what an inning that was for the Indians looking back on it now. He allowed a leadoff pinch hit single by Ichiro. Bouncer to short. Cabrera off balance throw. Not in time to get Ellsbury. So second inning in a row, Atchison has allowed a leadoff single. But last inning, with the Indians only ahead by a run, he gave up that leadoff hit. Then he was 3-0 to Brett Gardner before he got him to bounce into a double play. And then he got Jeter to strike out to end the inning, and then the Tribe erupted to take command of the game. We've got another pitching change here in the 9th with the Indians up 6. Our keys to the game are brought to you by Wayside Furniture. And as we take a look back, TJ House, you know, he had one bad inning where he kind of scuffled to get through it. And, you know, had defensive miscue behind him. And he didn't pitch as bad as the numbers look, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, they had opportunities. He got away with a lot of stuff tonight. But then again, like as you said, his defense didn't help him. But, you know, the 3 runs, that was it. They were able to hold it down again. Then the offense erupted.
Chopped to short. Cabrera backed up, goes to Kipnis for one, on to first. Double play! Well turned by Cabrera and Kipnis. And there are 2 down in the 9th.
Well, they hit that high hopper. Cabrera had to go back, so it's not an easy hop that as it looks. But Teixeira doesn't get down the line very well, so they're able to turn it.
Swung on and missed. Threw it right by McCann. He's 0 for 3 tonight. He has struck out 3 straight times. Out of play. Now Hagedon comes set in the 0-2 pitch. Breaking ball, got him looking. Oh, the Indians come back to split the series with a 9-3 win over the Yankees here tonight. Once again, this team shows that just when you're ready to count them out, they come back and keep their hopes alive. With the win, they get to 45 and 46. Yankees drop to 46 and 45. The winner is Carlos Carrasco. He goes to 2-3. The loss goes to Matt Thornton. He drops to 0-3 on the year for New York. Another terrific job by the Indians bullpen here tonight. And how about that offense? They came to life late and poured it on with 4 in the 7th and 5 in the 8th. A lot of different ways to go with this tonight, but it's time now for our key play of the game, brought to you by KeyBank.
Well, they came back and they got up off the mat. They had 3 straight hits in the inning, and then the big one as Dribble Cabrera is going to line the first pitch down the right field line. It stayed fair into the corner. It's going to get down in for a triple, a bases clearing triple, his 2nd of the year. They tried to get Kipnis at home, and then he scored the go-ahead run, and it was all Indians after that. That is our KeyBank key play of the game, brought to you by KeyBank.
Well, the Indians with another big win over the Yankees here tonight. They split the 4-game series. We're back with some final thoughts right after this.